Hello everyone. How are you? I hope that everybody is doing really super well. This is episode 241 of the Wool and Spinning Podcast. Remember when we used to be called the Wool and Spinning Podcast? Now it's just Wool and Spinning. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Chat is going crazy. I just want to say hello everybody. Thank you for being here. Got Eva from Germany, Dagmar from Germany, Kelly from Ucluelet, British Columbia. It's over on the far west coast next to Tofino. It's good to see Vicky and Christine and Alex and Julie and Rebecca up from Rankin Inlet up in Nunavut. Glenda from Victoria, British Columbia. We've got people from all over. It's so good to see everybody. Hi everyone. I can't say hello to everybody because we'll be here all day. So welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as, well, actually, no, that's not true. I always say that, but that's not really true. Instagram as Wool and Spinning, and then on Ravelry, I am Welford Pearls still. I still use my old sort of screen name, if you will. And I just want to welcome you to this place. If you're a new viewer of the podcast, you're just checking us out for the first time, thank you so much for being here. I'd really appreciate it if you took the time to subscribe and like and do all those things. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you continuing to watch the show and check us out week after week. This is our second episode for April, and our next episode will be, and our next live stream will be on May 10th. So I will see you guys. No, that's not true. I'm telling lies. May 3rd. So I will be sure to connect with you guys then as well. We went to a bi-monthly stream schedule this month. It was just a little bit better for me and my life and what was going on with us. And I appreciate your understanding. So thank you. And of course, to our Patreon community, you guys are the ones that keep the lights on here month after month, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for spending the time and being here in the live stream. I sat down, and it was a couple minutes before 12, and I felt like, okay, I've got some time. And then I was looking at the cameras, I had everything ready to go, and then I was like, my mouth is purple. No, it's blue. So I ran upstairs and brushed my teeth and everything, because normally I do anyways, but I had just eaten lunch. It was a little bit late today because I had a really awesome Wool and Spinning radio interview that I was doing, and we finished up and I ate lunch, and then I had like fruit salad kind of for my like dessert, quote unquote. So it's just like apples and pears and bananas mixed with frozen berries and stuff, and I just took like a portion of it. And I guess the berries were, because they were still quite frozen, I guess they like dyed my mouth. So I was like, gotta run upstairs. So then I was worried that it was going to be late and that we weren't going to start on time and blah, blah, blah. But here we are. So we have a packed show today. I have quite a lot to talk to you about, which is part of the reason why we went down to 2 per month, was just I wasn't getting anything done, and I didn't feel like I had a lot to share with you guys. And I was just hoping that by decreasing the frequency of the podcast, it would give you guys a chance to catch up and also give me a chance to sort of work on some things and have some stuff of substance to share with you. So I wanted to share with you a little yak spin that I did on my support spindles today. We'll talk about that for spindle spun stitches. And then I finally got hearth finished, so we'll talk about that. And I have a really fun spin that I'm just finishing it off. I was really hoping I would have the singles finished for today's show, but I missed it by about yay amount of comb top. But I wanted to chat a little bit about my white-faced woodland spin that I'm doing from Sheep Spot, and I think that will round out the show. I do have some knitting progress, and we'll talk about my wool and honey, and I think what we'll do is we'll do that first, and then we'll go on to the spinning. So I will see you guys on the other side. We've got some, Alex is moving. I wonder where you're moving. Probably be my last stream for a little while, so I'm glad I caught it. I'm glad you're here. Alex, it's good to see you. And Rebecca was sharing that Diana's 4th birthday is today, so happy birthday. That's amazing. I can't believe she's 4 already. I remember when you were pregnant with her. It's crazy. Anyhow, I'll see you guys on the other side. I'm just catching up with chat. So it looks like Alex is moving. So where is Alex? I was trying to figure out where Alex was moving to, but oh, she's moving to Australia from Washington, D.C. So that is a big move. That is an understatement, Alex. I wish you all the best. I hope that your move goes really smoothly. So I put it on the big camera so that we could talk about wool and honey. This is out of Disdarrow Ranch. This is out of their Kopaka. They have some really fun names for their yarns because they call them sort of the fibers that are in them. So this is Kopaka, and it's a mix of Corriedale, Romney, and mohair. But I might be wrong about the Corriedale. It might be a Romney mohair only mix. It might not be their Kopaka, it might be their Mocha, which is mohair and Romney. I might be completely butchering that and messing it up. However, it is a 2-ply, it's sort of a semi-worsted spun. You can see, if I show the yarn, you can see the individual singles when it was plied. It's not a fuzzy yarn particularly. There is a little bit of a halo. You can see a little bit of the halo up here at the top from the mohair. I have to say, it's a fingering weight yarn. It's very light. It's very pleasing to knit with. I've been really enjoying knitting with it. And I was saying to Virtual Spin Group this morning, to be honest, I would really love to just spin and knit this type of yarn for like the rest of my spinning career. Like, it's just, for me, with my hands and the size of needles that I want to work at, it's just perfect. I just really, really, really like it. It's light, it's airy, it's got a wee bit of a halo, not major, and it's just a lovely, lovely yarn. I have no idea, Eve, how to get yarn cakes to not do that. I have no idea. Not pulling from the inside like I do. Yeah, this was, yeah. My ball winder is sometimes we have a love-hate relationship, let's just say that. So I'll pull this closer and then I can show this to you. If you guys haven't seen this pattern, this is Wool and Honey. It's by Andrea Mowry. Oh, I have to give you guys an update. I'm going to interrupt myself for just a moment. The girl across the street, who I'm her grade 12 mentor for her capstone project, she's knitting a sweater. I think I told you guys that last time. So on Saturday, we went to my new local yarn shop, because Julie's been open for quite a number of years now. But my original local yarn shop that was closer, they've closed. Sue decided to retire. So now Valley Yarns is my local yarn shop, but it's about 15 minutes driving away. And anyway, she had to get her yarn for her sweater, and she's doing a Harry Styles style sweater, and I didn't really know what that type of a sweater looked like, but I encourage you to Google it. It's this oversized patchwork style sweater. So because she's got a very finite deadline to have this done, it has to be done by the middle end of May. So she's got just over a month of knitting, and it has to be done, and she needs to knit. She's knitting it in strips, but she'll do the squares and then she'll change colors, knit the next square, change the colors. And so we went on Saturday to get her yarn for her, and then we caked it up, and she's swatching now. Why was I telling you guys all of this? Oh, it was so much fun watching her choose colors and being like a brand new knitter, right? And she's 17 and she's so keen, and she picked out her colors, and they were basically Easter egg colors, and they were all the same tone, and the only difference was the color. And so I was explaining to her about value and drama and creating a little bit of interest in your work, and lights and darks, and we put a gray with it, a black with it, and a white with it to see how the colors would change. And it was fantastic. It was really, really fun. And we just had a really good time. It was fun being back in that role of like learner, you know? And then at the back of the store, because I had a quick look around while she was paying, at the back of the store, there was a sweater. It's a V-neck sweater. It's a drop sleeve, and it's done with sort of that Japanese style sleeve where you have like the panel that runs down the length of the sleeve, and you knit like off of it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Hohi Locatelli had a beautiful lace sweater that she did where you did the lace and then it was the drop shoulder and you knit off of that for the rest of the sleeve. Anyhow, I saw the pattern in the store and I messaged Julie later because I didn't bother writing down the thing. I thought, oh, that's really nice. I like that. But then later I was still thinking about it. So I was like, I got to find out what that sweater was. So I'm hoping that I can stash dive later and I'll tell you guys about it next show. But I think that's going to be my next sweater. And it's just a V-neck, very simple cardigan, but it's got all these like patches of color that you knit randomly, and it's kind of neat. It's totally different. So I felt really inspired coming out of the show, or out of the show. Going to a store is a show now. Coming out of the store. So Christine, it's not the Kopaka. So thank you for looking it up. The Kopaka is 80% Coriadel, 20% alpaca. This is not the Kopaka, it's the mocha. So if you are still on the website, Christine, whatever the mocha is, that's what this is. And I think it's the Romney mohair. I'm almost positive this is the Romney mohair. And this is on the Disdero Ranch website. They're local to me. They're located up in Tappan, British Columbia, just outside of Kelowna. So, yeah, so this is the Wool and Honey by Andrea Mowry, and it makes this beautiful honeycomb pattern. And you're working garter stitch in the background, but because it's knit in the round, you're knit one row, purl one row, knit one row, purl one row. And then you're working these, they're basically cables. And you're pulling your stitches as you go and making these big stitches and creating these big honeycombs. So I think I had told you guys I'd had quite a few false starts. I showed a little bit of it on the show where I started off where it was too tight around the neck and then I recast on. This is even still pretty, it's got lots of give to it and lots of stretch. So it will, once the weight of the sweater is behind it, it'll pull it out. I am a little bit concerned about how much positive ease there is. It's quite big, and the smallest size is already a 40-inch bust, which I just went through with my Lunenburg, which is fine, but like it, you know, it's pretty big. However, that said, it is quite big and there's a lot of ease in it, but I've worn it a lot. So I'm just going to go with it for this. At the back, you work a whole bunch of short rows. And then once you're finished your short rows, then you go into your pattern. So I'm going to go back later and pick up the 1x1 rib collar. And the reason for that is because 3 times now I've done sweaters where I've done the ribbed collar and then gone down into the body, and slowly what's happened is the neck has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's just not enough structure to hold it and make it really nice, to keep it a little bit smaller. And it works on this, it works on my stone crop, but I prefer that picked up neckband after. So I'll go back and do that. So that is that. It's coming along really, really quickly. These are I feel like it's 3.75 millimeter needles. I'm using what's called for in the pattern. That in the end gave me gauge. I talked about that a few shows ago. So no rush, Christine. Thank you for looking it up. I really appreciate it. So I just last night finished the first chart. So there's multiple charts for the yoke that you have to work. And I have to admit, the only thing that's kept me going is Brittany of Crux Fibers. She's knit this sweater, and she said it was one of 2 sweaters that she wears all the time. The other one was her Lunenburg, which kept me going on the Lunenburg. Because you know how I had to redo the body, I knit it twice. And so I'm like, okay, she was right about the Lunenburg. I have to trust her that she's right about the wool and honey. So even if she's not correct, I'm enjoying, even if she's not right, I'm sure that she is. But I'm really enjoying the yoke. It's been really fun to work. And something a little bit more interesting, and it's not quite, it's not mindless. I feel like I'm really having to work on it. And I've just like even last night, James had tutoring, even though it was Easter Monday. So I was waiting for him for 45 minutes, and like I was just trucking away on this, and I got an entire honeycomb done. So it's not fast knitting, but it's certainly not super slow because you're not moving multiple stitches. You're just moving that one stitch when you go to do your honeycomb. So not too bad. Dion is wondering what the logic of the ribbing working better after it's knitted. So for me, when you look at the neckband, this was cast on at the neck, and then I worked the button band, or sorry, the button. I keep saying button band because I keep thinking of sweater, of a cardigan, because I used to basically only knit cardigans, and now I feel like for every cardigan I knit, I do a pullover. That seems to be kind of my new like normal. So with this one, perfect example, you cast on, you knit the neck ribbing, and then you go into the patterning. And I find for me, having that cast on edge and then picking up the neckband and doing your ribbing and then casting off again, especially because you can do a really nice tubular cast off, which just looks awesome. Oh, there's a fly in here. It just gives it a little bit more structure because you've got that cast on edge and then you're picking up. And I find for myself personally, it just adds a little bit of structure. It's almost like adding an extra seam. So I see, yeah. No, actually it has nothing to do with running cooler. That's so interesting, Eve, that you would ask that. No, she remembers my pre-pullover days. A lot of it was just, I didn't love wearing pullovers. Like I just didn't feel super comfortable in them. I felt like I was always pulling at them. I just didn't feel really comfortable in them. And so then probably about 2 years ago, I had a couple of sweaters like the pink velvet and the stone crop pullover both of them are by Andrew Mowry. I just happened to have success with them and they worked. So I just kind of have run with it since and looked at patterns from both. So yeah. Yeah, Rebecca summed it up really nicely. You have the stability of the cast on under the ribbing instead of on top of it. And I really like those tubular cast offs, and I would prefer personally to do a tubular cast off instead of a tubular cast on. I find the tubular cast off is a lot easier to work. That's just my personal preference, and I think it's just the way my hands work and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah. Oh, Kelly's wondering if there's any chance of adding a new or additional spin group tier. Yeah, it's in the back of my mind. I know there's a few of you who've asked, actually more than a few. So I will keep it in the back of my mind, Kelly. Yeah, because I know there is that hunger for that out there for sure. All right. What else were we going to talk about? We were going to talk about my yak spin. So let me just, I've got this beautiful little skein here of yak. This is 100% yak. It's got fuzz on it. It's actually a little bit damp still. So it just came, I just washed it yesterday. I just plied it yesterday on my Magicraft. I plied it on my Susie Pro. And it's just a little wee skein, about 10 grams, which is amazing because there's just a ton of yardage here. There's like 40 or 50 yards here of yarn, but it's not quite dry. It's still damp, so it's kind of hanging a bit lifeless. But I spun this up as part of the luxury fibers workshop coming up on Sweet Georgia, and we're going to be filming at the end of May, and this was the last yarn that I had to spin. And it got me thinking, because I was sort of thinking about it and I was a little bit worried about spinning it. I was feeling a little bit pre-processed about it. And I thought, well, how do they spin yak? You know, how did they spin yak given where it's from? Sort of, you know, Nepal, the Himalayas. Like what tools did they have and what did they use? And so I decided to do that. I pulled out my most favorite support spindles, and we've been really celebrating support spindles in the community for the last over a year almost, and sort of spindles in general. And we started off with Spindle Spun Summer, and now we've kind of moved into Spindle Spun Stitches, where we're trying to make with our hand spun with our spindle spun yarns. And actually Christine posted this morning in the Slack channel an incredible photo of just many storage bobbins full of spindle spun singles, and she said she has to get plying, but oh my goodness. So this is my Allen Berry spindle that he carved for me. It was a custom that I asked him to do, and it's part of a set of two. So I grabbed the one, and then the other spindle, that one with the beautiful pink on it, it's another Turkish style spindle. Sorry, Tibetan style spindle, and it's a silly salmon. So for those who don't know silly salmon or Allen Berry, with Allen Berry you connect with him on Instagram, and you just send him a private message and say, hey, I'd love to get put on the wait list for a spindle, and he'll connect with you when he's able to take your order, and he'll stick with you until you're done. Until there's everything that you would like done and the order is complete, then he moves on to the next person. So you don't have to worry about if you want to add something halfway through him making something for you, or if you change your mind or whatever. Obviously, once it's past a certain point, you can't change your mind, but he'll work with you right till you're done. He's an amazing man. And he's local to me. I think he's just down in Washington, which is really cool. He's literally just across the border. And then the silly salmon spindles are just absolutely beautiful. So, Becca says I did a 100% yak for my certificate portfolio, and I also spun it supported. Is one of my most favorite skeins. I'm feeling quite proud of myself with this little yak ditty. It was a really fun. Now it actually gave me a new excitement to spin something like Kiviot this way. Rebecca had generously given me some Kiviot that I haven't kind of gotten into yet, and I thought, that would just be perfect. A short down fiber, spin it on a support spindle. I think really celebrating the fiber and celebrating the luxury of it. So this final photo, if you're wondering what it is, it's my Lazy Kate. It's super expensive. It's really hard to find. Weighted down with some really expensive, super exotic rocks. They're from Muncho Lake in northern British Columbia, River Rock. Anyways, and then I'm able to put the spindles. Actually, I don't have it right within reach. Yes, I do. I lie. I'm able to support and place the spindles into it by using the holes and leaving the spindles suspended, so that what I do actually is I put the smaller spindles, I actually put through the holes to hold them, and that holds them, and I put them at an angle so that they're not directly across. I put them sort of down a bit so that they're sort of more at an angle, about a 35 degree angle, whatever angle I can get them to. And then I pull from them in the front so that the spindle stays down and anchored, and I'm able to wind my plying ball. So that's what that little tiny rock is there. I start with the 2-ply, and I just wrap it around and wrap it around and wrap it around. So it's super, super simple. It made a lovely little plying ball that I could hold in my lap and ply from and finish off really quickly. And I actually think this little bitty of a skein could have taken even, I'll see what it's like when it's completely dry, but it probably even could have taken a wee bit more twist even. And it's perfectly balanced post-washing, but I'm just really happy with how it turned out. And like I said, we're celebrating all things spindles right now. So anything to get more spindle content into the podcast, I am all for it. All for it. Oh, that's wonderful. Christine started a new support spindle spin as well. Amanda loves my fancy Lazy Kate. I know it's one of a kind. I think Becca has the same one. Finally, a use for all those rocks my kids collect. We have vases full of rocks, and I feel like it's I feel badly, like I don't want to get rid of them. Like I want to keep them. So it's trying to figure out, like we used a whole bunch of them for our succulent garden. We made a little indoor succulent garden last fall, and I got the kids to use a bunch of the rocks on top. Just anything to like celebrate them, but not have them just collecting dust. Do you know what I mean? These river rocks that you get, that we found at Muncho, they're really cool because there's millions and millions and millions of them. They're everywhere. But they stack into a nookshucks really beautifully. And so the kids just, every time they're kind of at wit's end a little bit and sort of feeling a bit like you can just tell they're not 100% and they're kind of lying on the floor in the family room because there's a really comfortable rug in there. And I'll see them and I'll watch them, and they're stacking them and making inuksuks on the mantle, like on our hearth. Sorry, not the mantle, on the hearth of our fireplace, which I think is really interesting because that's where they all are. It's kind of funny, the things that people do, the kids do. Rebecca's mean, she gets rid of them. So yeah. Okay, the next spin that I wanted to chat about was my sheep spot. So this was I'll let you guys stare at beautiful photos while I talk. I have posted on Patreon, so if you don't get emails when I post something on Patreon and you're a member of the Patreon community, you might want to go into your Patreon, sign in, go in and look up notifications, and you can turn on when creator posts something that you get an email notification to let you know. I have posted a poll about what I should spin next because I have all these braids of comb top that I'm trying to get through this summer. I had 7. Start off with 5, we end up at 7 that I wanted to get done sort of between now and June, and so I'm finished 4 of them. So that's the Tofino road trip. That was 2 4-ounce braids. And then the silk puff, the Sweet Georgia silk puff on hearth, which was also an 8-ounce spin. So those 4 are done. And then I have 3 more to go. So this was the third, sort of the third spin, 5th braid. And this is Russian Squirrel, I think Sasha called it. Russian Squirrel. Such a funny name. And this was from her sheep spot from her fiber club in 2016, which is sort of embarrassingly a long time, but that's okay. And it's white-faced woodland, 100% white-faced woodland. It's not a blend. And I had put up in the poll which of the 3 braids to spin next. And then I put up a second poll asking how you guys wanted me to spin it, because I didn't feel particularly invested in how I should spin it one way or the other. And so you guys chose this one to spin next, which I wasn't surprised because of the 3, this one was sort of the most dramatic, for lack of a better word. I don't know what other word you would use, with those grays and that sort of that sunset type aesthetic. And then I put up a poll with, I think it was 4, but it might have been 5 different ways to spin. So it was multi-ply, so 4 plies or more, 4 singles or more in the finished plied yarn. A center pull ball, a traditional 3-ply, a fractal 3-ply. I think maybe it was only those 4, or singles. It was 5, or singles. So I said singles all the way, a traditional 3-ply, a fractal 3-ply, a center pull ball, which would be a 2-ply, or a multi-ply, so 4 singles. And it was really interesting to see the results. There were lots and lots of people who commented, I voted for this one, but I'd love to also see it in this one, which I thought was really fun. What ended up winning out by over 4 or 5 votes, it was quite high, like it was quite a mix, was the traditional 3-ply, which I thought was really interesting. So just a straightforward traditional 3-ply. So I stripped the top into 3 lengths. I stripped it vertically, all the way down, created 3 sort of bundles of fiber, and I am literally this far away from being done. So one of the questions that came up in the Slack channel it was early last week, maybe even over like last weekend, was how I spin continuous backward. So we talk about this on the podcast all the time, and I always mention, oh yeah, I spun this, continuous back, and we always sort of differentiate what's short back and what's short forward. And we were talking in queries on Saturday morning, there's this continuum of sort of your front hand remaining static, and as you work your way through the drafts, you get to that point where your front hand is moving to the woolen let me start again. In queries on Saturday, we had this conversation about this movement of the drafts from worsted over here to woolen over here. And with your worsted drafts, your front hand is the only hand that's moving. And with your true woolen drafts, your backhand is your only hand that's moving. And so you start off, so we had this conversation, you start off at the worsted end with short forward, and your front hand is moving like this. And then you go to short backward, where your backhand shifts smooth and on, back, smooth and on. And then you go to continuous back, where it's draft, smooth, draft, smooth, draft, smooth, and on. So with both of those drafts, both hands are moving. But then you go to long draw, and your front hand is supporting and holding your singles as your backhand moves and allows those singles onto the wheel. So there's sort of this continuum from the worsted end all the way through to the woolen end. And then on the Slack channel, we had this whole conversation about sort of this semi-woolen, woolen style spinning and what is backwards draw. Not long draw, but what is backwards draw. And so there's a lot of different people out there that, there's some great videos out there that will show you. Some people allow twist to go between their forward hand and their fiber supply hand, and some people don't allow twist to move between their fiber supply hand and their fiber supply. So I am one of those people that don't allow the twist to go behind my forward hand when I'm spinning this way. So if you want to do it more of a semi-woolen, or you want to allow that twist to go up into the fiber supply, you would actually physically lift that forward hand off of the singles. But you can see that I control the twist enough that while I'm not squishing all of the air out, my hand is just coasting over the singles, I'm also not allowing a lot of that twist to go into the fiber supply, where I'm pinch, pull back, let go, pinch, pull back, let go, and allowing that twist to run up into the fiber supply. So it was Vicky and Dorothy that were asking about this and wanting a video of this, and here you go. So this is how I spin continuous backward. So I hope that that was helpful. The conversation, the questions were asked, Eve, in the, I want to say the sweater spin channel, but I might be wrong. It might have, no, it wasn't the sweater spin channel. It might have been the fiber prep channel. No, it wasn't there either. Vicky, do you remember? Do you remember which channel it was that we were talking about this in? It wasn't the general channel. I remember that. It was in another channel. Because Vicky had very helpfully posted some videos, some links to other spinners that spin this way. And yeah, we were just comparing the pros and cons, the differences, what works, what doesn't work, why you might use one over the other. For me personally, one of the things and one of the reasons why I default to this way of spinning is it's very fast for me because I have a lot of practice. But also you get that more of a like worsted style yarn. Now, one of the things that's so interesting about these yarns is that I can still get a really high grist. So Dorothy and I were talking about sort of how do you create those high grist yarns where you've got lots of air and loft in them without sort of, you know, losing that consistency and that integrity of your singles. And this is how I do it. So this fiber was not pre-drafted. I just spun it, I stripped it down, and I started to spin it. But the reason for that, and hopefully I can make it bigger on the camera, but I know some people want to still watch the video. If you look at those singles, this white-faced woodland, it's very fuzzy. So you know how at the beginning of the show, I showed you the Disdero Ranch yarn that's sort of more of a worsted spun yarn at a mill. It's mill spun. You could see the individual strands making up that 2-ply. But with this, spun this way, it gets really fuzzy, but it's the characteristics of the fiber. It's very down-like, it's very springy, very springy. It has that real 3-dimensional crimp as you're spinning. I could see some people saying that this fiber is too toothy for them. I could absolutely see that being the case. And then look at this elasticity. And this is just in a plyback sample. This isn't even in like an actual skein. The 3-ply and the 2-ply were equally elastic to one another. Isn't that cool to see that in real life? Compare that to the yak. which has no crimp and no memory and no elasticity. There's no elasticity, right? So this way of spinning, where I'm spreading out the fiber as I go back, and I don't squeeze the fibers. I don't pinch. I pinch, but I don't then squeeze as I go. Like, I don't hold my fingers down. I'm actually really just skimming along the top, but I'm still stretching out those fibers and running my hand along it to allow the twist to go into that. And then I'm stretching the fibers and allowing my fingers to go over top of it to allow that twist in. And it creates that bounce and elasticity after, even though I haven't pre-drafted the fibers and added even more air. This fiber for me personally did not need more air added to it. Vicky said it's in the sweater spin thread. That's fantastic. So hashtag sweater spin. I guess I had just missed it because I thought I had gone back and checked that thread as we were talking, but I guess it's actually in, here it is. It's Thursday, April 7th. So if you guys are looking back, Dorothy started it. She started the conversation, and then Vicky replied. So it's Thursday, April 7th. For those who want to go back into the Slack channel and look for that. Hashtag sweater spin, and then go back to April 7th. Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see what this comes out like as a finished 3-ply, because this 3-ply is quite fine. Even after, it doesn't look that different from the 2-ply. It's a little bit rounder. You can certainly see that for sure. So we'll see what the finished yarn looks like. So you guys voted. This is on you. The other thing that I finished, I didn't finish this because it's not plied, but I finished the singles, finally. This has been on my Ashford e-spinner. I have talked about it. I remember talking about this in October over Thanksgiving because we were away and I had pre-recorded the podcast, and it came up on that Saturday morning of Thanksgiving back 6 months ago as a premiere, and we all watched it together because I was in what's it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. It starts with an S. And we were camping. And so I started, I remember sharing this with you guys on that episode. And then I think I shared it a couple of weeks later because I was away a couple weeks later again. I was on my yearly girls retreat, and I had done the premiere episode for that as well. And I talked about this again. So it's been on my wheel for a long time. It was on my Ashford 3, eSpinner 3. I think part of the reason why this got stalled on my eSpinner was because I find when I'm using my battery pack on my Ashford, if I want to spin with the speed knob above about 2 o'clock, and this was spun sort of between 2:30 and 3 o'clock on the speed knob, the battery pack can't keep up. It's like it runs out of, it's not just that it runs out of steam quicker, it's that it just can't get that RPMs going quite fast enough, and I really prefer to actually plug it in if I'm going to run it that quickly. And for this particular spin, Silk Puff is one of the bases. It's a Sweet Georgia Yarns. Hearth is the colorway. It was 30% off because the fiber that it wasn't, the dyeing wasn't quite on point. Is 40% merino, 40% superwash merino, and 20% silk. It was sort of an interesting blend for people that are wanting to explore socks. And, nice sheen. It takes the color beautifully because that superwash merino in there, and also that silk content. So it's just something to play with. It was just something fun. And, but I like this yarn spun quite high twist. I've spun this blend before. It was this Fiber Club offering for a couple of times. And I think when they still did Fiber Club, and I just like that twist. And so spinning it that quickly on the Ashford, I think I just kind of got a bit derailed with it because I always had to have it plugged in. But the singles are done. They are obviously rewound. These are not Ashford bobbins. These are rewound onto Lendrum sectional warping bobbins. And there's 4 ounces of fiber on each of those bobbins. So this is 2 braids of the Hearth colorway. And I bought this fiber with Rebecca at Sweet Georgia the day that everything was shutting down in 2020. And I wanted to spin it during the pandemic, so it's almost done. Maybe that means the pandemic's almost done. I have no idea. So yeah, you've talked about yarns spun this way not having a lot of durability. Have you found ways to improve that? I think, Rebecca, I spin basically all of my yarns that are for me like this, that continuous backward. This was spun continuous backward. I think a lot of it has to do with how much twist you put into it. I don't think it really has much to do with like that way of spinning. What I have found is lower durability is the low twist singles with a high twist ply, or low twist singles with a medium twist ply. Like, I've just found you can't fix those lower twist singles with a ton of twist in the plying. I've just found they still create neps, pills. They still rub and abrade. I've actually had more luck with more medium twist singles and then a high twist ply, or medium twist singles with a medium twist ply where it's really truly balanced, not on the wheel, but after washing. Yeah, it's the pilling. So the elasticity and bounce, your continuous backward always looks so relaxing. Thank you, Jenny. That elasticity and bounce, I'm quite curious to see what this yarn is gonna be like when it's done, because with that extreme elasticity, it may not be awesome for socks and stuff like it, because you'd have to knit it so densely. It might actually be better for something like a toque or something. I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah. That's right, Christine. So she says, with the continuous back, I get a worsted yarn, but it's not as dense as short forward. Is it maybe because there's less tendency to over smooth or pinch the fiber to the front hand? I don't think it's necessarily just that, Christine. It's definitely, you definitely get a lighter, airier yarn. It's not as dense as your short forward. I think what happens with short forward is that you, as you're doing your short forward, your uptake on your wheel has to be a certain amount to be able to pull that fiber forward to actually feed it onto your bobbin every single time. And I think what happens is you're pinching, pulling smooth, rush in you're back into your fiber supply, and you're pulling forward again. And I think that the tendency is to just grab more fibers, but because you're smoothing it, it's the same diameter. So your yarn is the same diameter as maybe your continuous back, but it's got less air in it. So if you want to increase the airiness of your yarns and the grist of your yarns, we need to keep that air in there somehow. And I find when I'm spinning short forward, I have that, you smooth back, pinch, pull forward, smooth back. And I just am not able to keep that degree of air in there that I want. So when you go to a short back, for me personally, when I go to a continuous back, I'm able to just smooth along. The wheel's not pulling as hard. I think I said this to Virtual Spin Group, one of the first things that most people do when they sit down and spin at my wheel, if they're trying a fiber or they're trying it at a fiber festival and they're like, oh, can I try your wheel? And they sit down for a minute. The first thing everybody always does is up my uptake. They always increase my brake band tension, always, without fail. Every single person that's ever sat at my wheel, that's the first thing they do. And I always want to say, and I don't, because they'll figure it out. They eventually, adjust it to what works for them. But I always want to say, like, just give it a try. Like, just don't have your wheel pulling so hard, because if your wheel isn't pulling quite as hard and you're allowing that twist to get in there before the singles go onto the wheel naturally, because you'll feel that natural pull if you just give yourself a second to feel it, and the wheel will take those singles on, and in its own good time, you can actually start to give yourself the time to work backwards, continuous back or even short back, and give yourself that working space without the wheel pulling all the time. Does that make sense? So, a lot of fiber in a small space. What in 2 years? Totally. Right, Rebecca? Eve said rib socks. Yeah, maybe this will get me over my sock thing. I knit like 11 pairs of socks in 1 year, in 2018 into 2019. I'm still not really excited about knitting socks. Kind of like, did a lot of that. So the last thing that I was going to just share with you, because I'm really hoping that next week I'll have finished yarn to share with you, is the sister spin to the Hearth colorway. And I call it the sister spin because I bought all of these braids at Sweet Georgia the day that everything was locking down on March 17th of 2020. Ask me how I know, but it's because it was also my dad's birthday. Yeah, Amanda, that's not a bad idea. Gloves might be a good idea. This is the Tofino road trip. So this is BFL Silk 8515. And well, that's part of the problem, Eve. We need to hear how the socks are holding up. I got moths, so a whole bunch of my socks got wrecked. I thought I'd mentioned that. I thought I'd told you guys that. Yeah, but quite a few of my pairs, like my Hauser, my opposing 3-ply, and my Suffolk socks, they got moth eaten. Yeah, so this is the Tofino road trip, and this was 8 ounces as well, same as the Hearth, and it was also discounted for dye issues as well. I can't remember what the issues were with this one. I think it was pretty minor. Anyhow, I spun this. What I wanted to do with it was a 3-ply fractal. So I took the 8 ounces and I divided it into 3 bundles by stripping it horizontally. So I did the one end to end. They all weighed roughly 77, 78 grams, 75 grams, give or take. So I did the one end to end, and then the second one I did 2, because there was one from one braid, one from the other. And then the third one I stripped 5 times, I feel like. There is a photo. Yes, I stripped it 5 times. And then I spun each to a bobbin and then rewound all of the singles onto, you guessed it, storage bobbins. So I call them storage bobbins, but they're actually sectional warping bobbins from Leclerc. If you're looking for them and you want them, they're Leclerc sectional warping bobbins. So this is these are the bobbins sitting on the Lazy Kate ready to ply. And I've actually got some plying done. So right behind me here on my Susie is the first part of the plying. So the bobbin's probably about 3/4 of the way full. I've got a little bit more to do, and then I'll wind off that skein, and then I'll do the next skein, and I'll probably get three skeins off of this, I think, probably. The third skein will be quite small. And then I also have to mark which end of the yarn is the end of the one and the beginning of the next, so that I can keep the fractal in order. So yeah. Yeah, I thought I had said something about the moths. Yes, we got clothes moths. So now we're in sort of a I don't think I'm going to be able to completely get rid of them. I think it's kind of one of those situations where I'm just going to have to minimize what they get into and the damage that they do until we actually finish the reno upstairs. Because I think once we finish the reno, everything's cleared out, cleaned out, and then we'll get. I said to Mike, I think we're gonna have to actually get new furniture. Like, I think they're actually in the wood of my dresser, because my dresser was actually my mom's when she was a kid, and then it was mine, and now I've kept it. So unfortunately, if they're in the wood at the back of the dresser, like, they'll never go away. So I was talking to Amanda about it actually, and about sort of just the idea of like spring cleaning and getting into things and clearing things out. I did fix my pink velvet. It had moth damage, but it was very minimal, and I was able to get a skein of yarn to fix it. Thank goodness they still had the colorway. It was Jameson's and Smith. My Spark cardigan has some damage, and then quite a number of the socks got damaged. So, and I think with the socks, it's because there was probably oils and stuff in them, and they got attacked. The nice thing is it was in a very specific area, and it was just 4 or 5 articles. It was like very contained, and yeah, it's just, I count myself very lucky that in almost 40 years, this is the first time I've had to deal with moths. Like, it's pretty good. So yeah, it's so funny, Lindsay, that you would say about the Louette wheel. So I was just having a conversation with Emily Grace about she learned on a Louette S10, and we were literally talking about the fact that she had to loosen off her brake until it was basically non-existent. Yeah, and she just used the flyer as tension as well, and it made for, because those wheels are Irish tension. So with the Louette wheels, they're Irish tension. You've got that almost like it kind of looks like a belt over the front of the wheel, and that creates a very firm uptake, and it can be a lot. So just a different type of tensioning system, and you have to do that. Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. My heart just died a little. Yeah, I was really upset when I figured it out. So, but we've been able to contain it. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was still heartbreaking. Okay, we are going to try something new with community participation. It may or may not work, but I'll see you on the other side. So you guys are funny actually, because yeah, Rebecca said doing the same clear out management of moths, because Becca had moths as well, and they got into some of her fibers for her certificate for her portfolio that she's working on. And she says she's past the painful part, but part of me just wants to tear the house apart. It's funny because when I wasn't too upset about the socks. I was like, that's a real bummer. I'm bummed. That really sucks. But what tipped me over the edge was the pink velvet. And the reason is because I wear it so much. I wear it a lot. Even though I haven't necessarily podcasted wearing it, I wear it a lot. And I was super upset. And then the other thing I was really upset about was my Spark cardigan, because I'm not totally sure how I'm going to fix that. Just the way that it is. So I have to do some playing. We need to see if we can get this to work for the podcast. So I am just going to click around here a little tiny bit, and then you guys can tell me if things are working or not. Oops. And this is new, so just give me a second here. I think it'll work actually a little bit better. There we go. I think it's going to work. Okay. So for our alongs for this year, we have a lot going on, and this comes up in our housekeeping post every year, every month. And all of these the links there where it says thread or my project page, those aren't active links. It's an image that I had to do because of how Patreon works and whatnot. So when you look at the housekeeping post, all of them are actually linked underneath. But this just gives you an idea of what's going on in the community. So when I talk about Zero to Hero, that's what it is. It's fiber to yarn to finished item. Spindle spun stitches morphed from spindle spun summer, a year-long celebration of spindling. And then our luxury fibers along and our natural shades along. That's pretty self-explanatory. Celebrating luxury fibers, celebrating all things natural shades, does not have to be wool. And then our breeding color studies for the year is on Radnor. And then our sock color study, which is a grassroots movement from, pretty much all of this is grassroots movement, but our sock color study was a exploration of socks and color, and also it's turning into yarn structure as well, that Rebecca was sort of spearheaded. So that's what's been going on in the community. So Robin shares, I completed one braid this is for this sock, our breeding color study. I was going to say our sock color study, but this is breeding color study. Yeah, our spin our stash along. I haven't really done anything like formal for that, Eve. So I don't have like, I haven't really kind of gotten that, like, so we've got so many things going on that I sort of, I sort of thought I would leave that one for now. So I completed one braid for this study. I'm afraid I'm not very creative, but basically I just spun it as is. I vertically stripped the braid into 12 strips, 6 per bobbin for a 2-ply. I got 282 yards of 2-ply yarn, about a sport weight, and I enjoyed this wool with such strong personality. I am happy that I have more yet to spin. This is just awesome, Robin. And there's a few of you, Robin's one of them, and Julie, who've kind of and Rebecca, who've kind of kick-started us into our breeding color study on Radnor, which is pretty awesome. So thank you for jumping in, you guys, and being our early adopters of getting going. This is from Caitlin. I just thought this was so beautiful. This spindle, these plying balls, the final plied yarn on the spindle. It's just beautiful. I started my 100-day challenge to spin at least 15 minutes a day. Yesterday was day 17 and I'm already over 45 grams in towards my first goal, which is approximately 170 grams of BFL 2-ply fingering weight. So after her 100-day challenge, her soft goal is to spin enough yarn for a shawl, hopefully the Reina, and we'll see where the year takes us. I'm excited to see how these colors ply up. I'm going for a bit of a random spin, stripping the fibers to different lengths and widths before pre-drafting. I made it spinning through my singles. It only took until day 60 to spin a little bit over 6 ounces of roughly fingering weight 2-ply. I'm now excited to get it all plied up. Isn't that amazing? I just loved Caitlin's photos. So thank you so much for sharing. Oh, Kath, I can totally see that happening. I was wondering about that with yarn shop owners. When I had my yarn shop, I used to wake up in the night stressing about moths. Of course, like how could you not? Yes. Yeah. We recently got rid of our old slot together sofa that seated 8 people and couldn't be moved. And I was shocked by how many moth casings were behind it. I bet, because you can't get in there to clean, right? Yeah. All right, this is from Brittany. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. She says she likes this new way of sharing community projects. Thank you, I'm glad. I thought it was more effective for me as well because I'm not clicking around as much. I'm literally just pressing next, which is really nice. So this is from Brittany. Find yourself from some Labradoodle, alpaca, and some bouncy fiber like Dorset, and you get something as beautiful as this. Here in the north of Canada, it is not unusual to comb Malamute fluff and even Labradoodle fluff for spinning. It took 6 passes on the carder to tame the dog fluff, but the reward was that this fiber spun like a dream. She ended up with 14 wraps per inch, 345 yards, and a grist of 1,500. The twist per inch is, oh, I think she means the twist angle is 25%. Amazing. This is beautiful, Brittany. A passerby may assume it's just Angora in there. They probably would, especially with that halo. Isn't that incredible? Beautiful. And this is the dog. I had to include the photos of the dog. So this is the original fiber, and then her spinning it and the pup. So cute. If you guys don't ooh and ah and get all like, oh, I'm not a big like cute dog person, but he's pretty cute. This is from Dion. I just love this spin so much. I'm just so impressed. I'm excited because I just finished my singles for a sweater spin. This is my second spun skein. And she actually has a follow-up post in the Slack channel of all of the finished yarn, and it's like hanging. It just looks awesome. Awesome. So Florence, it's so funny that you would say that. Check behind your knitted wall hangings. I actually have gotten into the habit, because I've got yarn hanging on branches and stuff, so I've gotten into the habit of pulling them down and shaking them out outside, and looking behind them, having a really good look through the skein. And also because I have yarn to fasten the branch onto the onto where the hook in the wall goes, I've actually started checking the integrity of the yarn to see if it's being eaten away. And yeah, so anybody who has anything hanging on the wall, vases full of yarn, look in your vases, clear them out, unskein your yarn, shake it out, check it, look in the bottom of the vase, all that kind of stuff. This is from Shauna. Next up on my long draw journey is Polypay. So we haven't really talked about Polypay in this community very much. I do have a whole bunch of Polypay in the garage, and it is so grody. I'm actually tempted to compost it, but I might pull it out and just see. I don't know why, but I'm finding this one very challenging. I'm glad I didn't start with this. The fiber keeps breaking and I don't understand why. I can't seem to get the right ratio or the right uptake. It's all too much and not enough. It's very frustrating. So I think with Polypay, it's very downy, it's very bouncy and springy. It's not a very long stapled fiber generally. And I think if you're moving too quickly and there's not enough twist built up, when you draw out, it's going to just draft all apart. And so possibly, I'm just spitballing some ideas, just work in a slightly smaller area, not quite so long, and allow that twist to build up and then draw back, rather than trying to draw back as the twist is going into the fiber. So when you do that, drawing back as the twist is going in, that's American long draw. With English long draw, you allow that twist to build up and build up and build up, and then you draw out. And don't draw out too far, and then pinch both ends of your singles and draw out a little bit more and see if you like that thickness, and then run it onto the yarn. So that's a great thought too. Rebecca said, did you check for breakage in the locks? That's a great idea. Yeah. Yes, I know it's polypay, and I just haven't started spinning yet. I haven't gotten there yet. No moths in the Arctic. Yes, that's so true. I actually have our deep freezer is minus 23 degrees, our deep freeze. So I was actually thinking I would put a few things in there and see if I could kill, like make sure that I really kill some of them. And yeah, Amanda recommends sticky traps. That's a great idea. Great idea. Yeah, the worst place I ever had moths was in a hand spun warp on my loom. Oh my goodness, Eva. Yes, she says I was so heartbroken. I bet. Yes. I spun my polypay Advent as long draw. That's great to know, Kathy. Thank you. Keep the ideas coming, you guys. This is from Lisa. I just love this photo of her. I thought it was so great. I finished my interrupted cowl using my merino thick and thin hand spun. It was really fun to spin, and it was fun to knit. The pattern is from Universal Yarns, using their hand paints and some sparkly silver merino. I have to fight with myself to wear anything sparkly. Too many voices in the head saying shiny things on larger women makes them look larger. No, that's not true. The blend is somber and shiny. I didn't bother making sure the slub was even. I just mucked with it and wound up with a 6 wraps per inch on average, 3 stitches per inch, 4 rows per inch, 39 yards per pound grist. That's amazing. Spun and plied on my Shack Matchless 4-to-1. That's awesome. Yeah, Dion, I could totally see you making this and making some really, really fun, yarn, bats and Rolex and stuff, and then making up some yarn. I could totally see that on you. Absolutely. Oh, that's so sad, Eve. She got moths into her pound of Targhee. You can't get it here in the UK. Oh, that's too bad. This is from Shauna. I finished plying my first long draw, approximately 100 grams of Tunis from Long Way Homestead. I was going to run this back through my wheel to add some ply twist. I was cautious the first time, not wanting to crush out all the air. Now seeing it hanging pretty straight, maybe I shouldn't add more twist. So I personally wouldn't add more twist. It looks like it's got a twist left in it already. It looks pretty happy, and your twist angle looks really, really beautiful. So I would personally leave it, Shauna. The unwashed fibers vary between lace and decay, or even worsted in some spots, but overall it's an average sport weight, so I'm happy with it. Yeah, and I would personally leave it as it is. Charlotte says I rotated my whole stash through the freezer. Hard to find the food though. That's a great idea though, Charlotte. Just rotating it through and just, so that you're always sort of on top of it. That's actually not a bad idea. This is from Ruth. It's done. I'm going to press play. We're getting very fancy here, you guys. Very fancy. Look at this. We've got a video now. Isn't that fun? Well, at least I'm not ripping it out again, even though there are things I could have done differently. For now, I'm in celebration mode. The pattern is my own. It was built on a basic Norwegian blouse, and uses 2 colorwork patterns I found in other projects. The honey color is organic Polworth, spun and plied on the fly on my tiny Turkish spindles all last summer and fall. The white is Shetland silk wheel spun. It has been a welcome adventure in slow making. Isn't this incredible? So fantastic. Well done, Ruth. Thank you so much for sharing it. Dion vacuum seals her fiber, and actually that's what I've done. I've taken it all and I've vacuum sealed it. This is from Dana. So after the wool circle, she got out her Lundgren Very Fast Flyer and played. So we have been playing with the Very Fast Flyer in the wool circle the last few episodes, and we'll be playing with it again this coming Monday because it's got the ratios that I need for some of the luxury fibers that we've been working through together in preparation of the luxury workshop coming up. So our next I think our next wool circle is on camel. Yes, so we will definitely be using the very fast flyer. So Dana and I were sort of commiserating afterwards about just the guide and getting used to it, and that the more we spin on our Lendrum very fast flyer, the better we'll just get used to it and adapt to it. So the flyer, I had mentioned at one point that my flyer makes a bit of noise, and mine does too. I especially do not like treadling it. I find, I especially do not like threading it. So I find that I need to keep it oiled, and I have to keep the uptake light. So I definitely have to sort of be very intentional about how much uptake I put, because the more uptake, it gets really, really hard to treadle as well. Yes, the fiber came. I was going to say, Dion, that it came. It actually came on Thursday. So thank you so much. This is from Laura. I finally finished my sweater spin. These are going to be Anna Johanna's juxtaposition. So this isn't Laura's photo of the sweater being modeled. It's actually Anna's. But I included it so that you guys could see what she had spun for the sweater, because it's just going to be fantastic. I knitted the swatch yesterday. Now I only have to decide where to start the fade with both the main color and the contrast color. So she's done a double fade. If it was me, I would personally start at the white up here, because white will draw your eye up, and finish with the dark gray at the bottom, and then keep the bright at the top, that beautiful blue, and then work my way down to the purple. That's what I would do, but I just think this is gonna be fantastic. I'm thinking of starting the top-down sweater with white and the most red of the contrast skeins. So what would you do? So I would personally start with the bright blue, but I think either would work, to be honest. I think you should do what you wanna do. That's actually what I did, Amanda. That's a great tip. Would it help to switch out the breakband material so that you could adjust the tension with more sensitivity for the very fast flyer? So I did. I switched mine out to be line spun linen, because yes, absolutely, and it worked beautifully. This is from Rebecca. This is not an analogous yarn, but I took my leftovers from some of my analogous spins and combo spun them. This is some of my most favorite yarn that I've seen anybody spin ever. I love this yarn so much. The yarn on top is combo drafted, and the yarn on the bottom is combo plied. Isn't it interesting how the combo draft looks lighter in value? Isn't that incredible? So cool. I had done a combo draft and a combo ply for our fin study when we did fin way back when. And even to this day, those are still, I use the yarns in my shift cowl, and it's still to this day some of my favorite yarn that I've ever done. And the same thing here as it was then. It was the combo drafted yarn that I liked the best. Beautiful, Rebecca, beautiful. And this was a really fun share from Malin. I just love this so much. So I'm going to read all of this, but and if you guys have any questions, just let me know. But I just thought this was so fantastic and such a wonderful deep dive. After reading your question about chainette yarn, so this was a question that was asked in this Ravelry group, actually, under the thread Ask Anything. I did some experiments to try to recreate them. The photos below show the chainette style yarns that I made, 1, 2, and 3 stitch I cords next to the plied yarns with the same number of plies. So if you look at the book on the top, and I know it's hard to see because you're on a computer screen, but hopefully you're full screen. If you look really closely, the chainette yarns are so beautiful. The closest I got to a commercial chainette yarn was by spinning a really fine single and then using it to knit a 2-stitch I cord. By tweaking the twist in the singles and playing around a bit with different fibers, I think you could come quite close to the commercial chainette yarns. However, you really do not need to do this. However, you really do not want to do this. Even making only about 1 meter of this yarn took me over an hour. But isn't it so cool? It's so cool. So thank you, Malin, for sharing your experimentation with us, because that's how we grow and learn, and it's fantastic. Isn't that cool? So that is it. That is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys spending all of this time with me here in this place. It's just really fun to look forward to podcast day and look forward to being here and looking forward to just hanging out with you guys and spending some time sharing my work with you, getting into all these little, deep dives and rabbit holes that we get into. I hope that I mostly stayed on topic today. I think I did. I think I did. And sharing all the different stuff that I'm working on. So I'm hoping that next show we'll have lots and lots of plied yarn to talk about and to share with you. So fingers crossed that I get lots of plying done between now and then. So I am off to pick up the kids at school. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. This will be available later publicly for everybody, but for now it's just for patrons of the show. Thank you again to those who support the show. I really appreciate it. You guys are the ones that keep me doing this month after month and make it meaningful for me. So thank you. We have a maker morning tomorrow morning. It is at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. And I hope that I will see you guys there. So until then, there's also already been a Patreon post posted for that. So you guys, it just went up at 12 noon, so you guys will be able to see that and click the links for the Zoom meeting, and I'll post a reminder tomorrow morning in the Slack channel. So I hope that I see you guys then, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope that those who celebrate had a wonderful Easter. To everybody else, I hope that you had a really lovely long weekend if you got one where you are, and until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy all the things. Bye everyone.